Hi there. Good morning. It's about 20 to 9 in the morning on Sunday, the 11th of July. Still 2021. It's a bit grey out. It's dry. Still dampish from yesterday. Even though it didn't rain through the day yesterday, it still was rather... It just never really fully dried up, I guess. But I'm awake. I'm vertical. Which is good because I really didn't have that much sleep yesterday. So I'm fussing with glasses and things. What I thought I'd do today is have a look at my sketchbook because I need to review what I've been doing and get my thoughts into order. So you can see what my sketchbook looks like currently. It's likely to change because I will go back and work on pages and add stuff, but perhaps I'll talk about that as we go through. So you can see I'm not paid or gifted products or anything at all sponsored in any way to mention these. I just do it because you may be interested, and people are. Oh, what do you like? I like the Sea White sketchbooks, the ones that have got all media acid-free cartridge paper in. It's fairly sturdy paper at 160 GSM, that's grams per square metre. Don't ask me what it is in pounds because I don't know. And it's sized on the surface, so it will take a bit more water based media, wet media, than ordinary cartridge paper, but not as much as something like paper specifically for these medias or mixed media paper. But I like it because it gives me that option to try things out. The very first bit is a pocket that I've made for all of the colour swatches of all of the media that I tend to use at the moment. Then there's this succulent still all on its own, and that page is still blank on the back. Who knows what will appear there. Then this page, you've seen this one, which are all of the insect drawings that I did a couple of weeks back. Oh look, 21st of June, summer solstice. I did date this one. I'm out of the habit of dating my work. But on the reverse side, where it was blank, I've put some watercolour paintings of bugs there. This one that I finished, more or less, with dots and everything, and this one that I'd started working on. That paper was the Canson Imagine all media paper, or mixed media paper. Again, not sponsored or anything. I'll say that now. There'll be a note in the comments to say this. I'm not sponsored, paid for or gifted. It's just what I like. I actually like this paper. It's very smooth. It's lovely to draw on. Not so lovely to use wet media on. Ink tents work okay. Things like the Tombos and Kuretake Zig Clean Colour Real Brush pens do as well. With a water wash. Excuse me, I'm a bit snotty this morning. Allergies is all I'm going to say. Allergies. This one was on some Gold Line sort of practice watercolour paper. It comes in a huge pad. It's really inexpensive, and it's not that nice to use in some ways, but I have to try it. The reverse side is smoother. It's quite nice to draw on, so I can always make use of it. The reverse side also takes distress inks quite nicely. So I haven't done any more work on this page. It's just there for fun, reference, everything else. Oh, that was the disastrous bugs. They started off lovely, and then I started messing around with glaze pens and got myself into a bit of a pickle with one that I thought was clear and wasn't. It was white. That, live and learn, but I think the clear one would give that glossiness where I want it. Must order some, still haven't. Page full of butterflies and moths and shapes of wings and ideas there for future use. My mushrooms drawn in ballpoint pen and in the vintage colour gel pens, and I started adding colour to some to see the difference that coloured line would make. I'm looking at it now because it's been well over a week since I've browsed through this, and before I go any further, it's always nice to go back to things I've done after some time because I get a different perspective on things. At the time, I may be disheartened because it hasn't worked out the way I expected or I wanted, or I don't like what the effect is, and because it's new and different. Whereas if I walk away from it for a bit and go back, I can go, actually, I really quite like that. That's fun. That needs more exploration. And that's what this is. I look at it now, and apart from this icky colour at the top, I really like the way these purple ballpoint pen lines have become part of the shadow and everything. They're not as stark as black. And that's something for me going forward, perhaps, because I do have a tendency to draw in black and add colours, and it ends up feeling a bit... It's brilliant for colouring templates. It's brilliant for a certain look for things like doodle worlds and so on. But other times, it can be a bit stark, almost cartoony, whereas this is more subtle. You've still got that definite line there, more so than pencil lines, which are over here. There are pencil lines on these, but they disappear because they're so faint. And so you're just left with the colour. And they're nice. I like them. But there's something intriguing and different about this one. I started doing some leaves. I haven't gone back and finished them. These are all the Canson Imagine, and that's perhaps why I haven't gone back and done any more. But this one, you know, using colours that are sympathetic with, or analogous to, it's a better word for saying, the colour of the line works really nicely. But even here, those lines with that slight bit of yellow ochre, oops, you can't see. And here, the lines with that slight bit of yellow ochre, it adds that shadow in a more natural kind of way rather than grey. So I told you I'm not very good at colour. This page I've stuck in those leaves that I did just for fun, because they were fun. For no other reason, they were fun, and I was playing with the Magello Mission Gold there. Lots of space around these and these, because I will write notes there, or will comment on the paper, roughly the date that I did them. You know, it's all June, July 2021 in here. I make notes about what I like, what I don't like, what media I used, how well it works, and so on. And that might be a task for me later today. This page, I haven't done any more since I showed it. It's one of my typically entangled kinds of pages, you know, quite Zentangly inspired, but all Angela style. Very abstract, very stylised. I'm trying out Inktense pencils, and I still don't know about those green leaves. They look a bit too in my face, but, you know, it needs more. Haven't finished this one. And that's no hassle, it's a sketchbook. It was just something I drew because I needed to. I haven't done anything with this one. I'm not sure if I've scanned it in as it is. I think I may have done ready for digital colouring, which I may or may not get around to. This one I haven't finished. I think I felt like I was losing the way and just walked away from it for a bit. But it may be that I go back to it at some point in time. I know I was using the Tombow for Denisukis there. Again, this is a page where I was playing with ballpoint pens and some fine nibbed, what I thought were ballpoint pens, but turned out to be gel pens, which aren't water resistant, but fairly water resistant. Some of the black is picked up and it adds a natural shadow and shade. Just trying out different things, just playing, because that's what sketchbooks are for. This one is another page full of fun. The top, there's ballpoint pen sketches to try, ballpoint pen with Inktense, ballpoint pens with different colours, trying painting Inktense first and drawing on the top, just trying different things. And this one, they're bound to be Inktense pencils with a dark brown vintage gel pen, the Arteza ones, which are 0.7. And I think the finer lines were the equivalent in the Zebra, which is 0.5, which is why I have both sets, because they're different thicknesses. Now then, this you've seen, but I'm not sure whether you've seen it as I've done things with it, because I have worked on different things and perhaps added things. Some notes, you can see I've started annotating this. I don't know if you can see, if I move the paper you might catch some glints of sparkly, because I added some sparkly. I tried different kinds of white gel pens and different ways of getting things on there. There's some I'd like to revisit. This one down here is very subtle. I'm not sure if the camera picks it up, but the white on top of that pink is very subtle and I quite like that. And over here, I've added, I'm off the page, I'm tapping at things. I've added little white dots here. It's very subtle, but you know, it's quite nice. I think all of these were done with Inktense pencils. Again, this is adding ballpoint pen to add colour and shades here. And in some places I have added some Inktense. Inktense because it plays well with the paper, or better than watercolours and so on do. I don't need so much water. It's the only reason. This was the abstract piece I was working on earlier this week, and you can see what I've done to it. I took patterns, shapes and the way they went together from a photograph of ice that was beginning to melt and crack, or not crack jaggedly, but sort of like in nice smooth lines and with smooth shapes inside in the puddle. And I just took a couple of those shapes and then built on it, made the rest up really. And but you know, sort of like based on what was there, making them fit together. Then I added colour, black in the interstices, the little gaps between. And then I was talking about, do I add gold? Do I not add gold? Do I try adding line? Do I try doing something else? So I have tried some different things on here. When things get stuck in a sketchbook, by the way, it means they're not finished work. It means they are there as a way of working on and developing and trying things out and making notes on and learning from. This is something I've forgotten about, the value of sketchbooks, because I haven't used sketchbooks much for so long in the way that I used to. And it's something I want to keep on with because it informs other work. And I like the black lines in these bits. And it would be great if I can find something to bring out the shine there. Sort of Ranger's Glossy Accents might do it, or the equivalent in other brands. Clear Glaze may do. I may have to order some Clear Glaze pens shortly, but they would look quite interesting. But then I need to do some, they stand out a lot more than the other bits, so it's working out how do I make those tie in. Here I think I could have left in this part, the brown bit there without those black lines, and that means the inside bits there may and the outside bits form that border, the boundary around them. And inside some of these little bits I've put some gold. This is from a gel pen. These are both acrylic ink and some watercolour, metallic watercolours. I don't even know if these are still available. They're like this. They're made by a company called Cosmic Shimmer, or Creative Expressions, there we are. And they were called Cosmic Shimmer iridescent and metallic watercolours. And there were tons of sets. I think there were about 10 different sets the last time I bought any. And I have one of each. Two of one or two, because I forgot I bought them. Well used, as you can see, but they're beautiful. There are other makes and brands out there which I'm sure work the same way. I don't like the Gansai Tambi style paints, the watercolours that are thick and gloopy, and also because they're based around gelatin. And being vegetarian, I'm not very happy about that. So you can get those in metallics. I have a set that are vegan. I don't really like them very much. Much prefer those. There's a lot more sparkle and shine in them. If I'm going to use that, I applied these dots using a dotting tool like this. You buy them, they're used for nail art, they're used in working with vellum. You know, sort of like, what do you call it, the parchment craft, and lots of other things, but also dot mandalas. Dot mandalas were a huge craze a couple of years ago, and yeah, I had to go, because you just have to, because they're beautiful. And I already had plenty in stock, you know, in the stash and so on. But sometimes for adding dots, consistently sized dots, these are great, and also for trailing the dots off in size. But you've got to get the consistency of the paint or the ink right. Didn't work very well with the acrylic ink, but with the watercolour metallics it worked really well. So there we are. This is one that I was working on last earlier in the week. This is a test piece really for what I was going to do with the abstract I've just shown you, just to try the shapes and colours and ideas out on. This is the that's the Canson Imagine paper, I think. No, it's not. It's Daler Rowney Aquafine, like the other one. And I'm sure Daler Rowney Aquafine paper is brilliant paper. I'm sure there are an awful lot of people out there who love it and it works for them. But it doesn't for me. I find it very difficult to work with. I find it very grabby to colours. It dries too quickly if I'm using watercolour. It's nice to draw on, except the size can clog pens up. So, but anyway, so this one is the Canson. No, it's not Canson. It's Canson Moulin de Roy paper. And these are the Magella Golds. They were Magella Golds, and I tried Inktense out, Inktense colours here to see. This one I'm still working on. It's in here because I'm not sure about it. It won't be a finished piece. But you can see here I've been trying different things out with pens and brushes and metallic golds, just to see what I can do here. I've put a texture on that one and filled some of the points in. This harks back to some work I did really, a couple of decades ago really now. This page you've seen is my half bugs, because if I'm going to work on things digitally and I want them symmetrical, well, I'm not going to draw the other half because it'd be wonky. This page, I'll come back to the other one. This is a piece of the Canson Moulin de Roy where I wet it and I dropped colours in and I just let them do what they wanted to. I added water and let them drip and flow, and they flowed one into another. And here I just dotted some water in when this was still wet enough to take the water, and the water spread out and created these light patches. I love that texture there. I really do. It reminds me of patterns you get in fossilised coral that's been cut and polished. It's lovely. And then I started drawing on it and adding things. You can see I've got lots of metallics here, which I've used to fill in the white gaps that were left, but also the lighter areas to add a lacy feel, something flowing down, dripping down, and then some black line here, which looks a little bit stark, but I will eventually work out how to do this. I'm going to try things on here. And my biggest thing, I realised yesterday when I got this file, I thought, I didn't scan it in, because I was going to scan this in and use it as a background for digital art. Ho-hum, no matter, because I can always make others. Won't be exactly the same, because you can, I don't know if anybody can get anything the same twice in watercolour. I have no idea. I doubt I could. But lovely, lovely, lovely colours, an unusual mix. I'm sure if you look at the background colours, you'll see all kinds of things in there. It's almost like a sunset sky above weird trees and perhaps, I don't know, neon lights of a city. That's the other abstract art I was doing. Again, this is the Moulin de Roy paper, which is nice to work on. This was Inktense though. You can see how in comparison, I don't know if you can see how in comparison I can, this is quite patchy compared to this. There's some interesting texture in this, almost, it's not granulation per se, which is where watercolours sort of like clump as they spread and flow, but there's an interesting way that some of the colours have interacted with each other, which you can only see really close up. And then this is the page that I'm currently working on. And I've been drawing some of it in the small still hours of Friday night into Saturday, because I couldn't sleep. I woke up in the middle of the night, just couldn't sleep. And others I've been working on since. Started here with this, which is abstracty, some shapes. I think I started with these fan shapes. I just wanted to work with the ballpoint pens and get a grip on them, not literally and sort of like artistically, and just see what happens and work with just what comes out of my unconscious mind, how I wanted to go. This one is based on mould found on grapes in a garden, not grapes, pears in a garden. I'll show you the book I've used for some ideas here. This one is from wood that has been burnt but you know how it singes, it crackles, it gets that crocodile skin kind of look. So I use that. And interestingly, these seem to be layered one under each other, whereas in the original photograph, this was actually deep down and the others were stacked up and out, like steps coming out of an amphitheatre. So the way I've added shading has changed how it appears. This taken here. This I drew with all, the Humble Bic pens. These are the fine ones. Quite like the new clear orange barrels. They used to be solid orange back in the day when I last had any. They're quite nice. And so it's got a greyer colour in it. And then I used red and blue. Red first and then blue on top to add the shadows. So the red adds some, like here. But if I use blue, which I can do, glasses, there's a reason I was moving my glasses around. And I'm using as light a hand as I can because I tend to be very heavy-handed with pens and art in general. I'm trying to learn to be less heavy-handed. And then instantly that brings some fiddle around. I've got my pencil case off to the side, or one of my pencil cases. Excuse me. Sniffing my way away this morning. Can add that red out, and it really does mean a light hand, and you have to be careful about the globs of biro that accumulate on the end, which I haven't done too good a job of there. I also really need to turn this around because flicking away from me, I get a much lighter fade off than pulling it towards me. But you can see that now has a curl to it. It's some of the tricks of how my art works. So if you want to know how to sorry, this is going to be, sorry. Oh, blimey. It's going to be one of them days, I can tell. So how I add colour digitally and traditionally to get that sense of volume or dimension, that illusion that things have volume or are bent or are shaped. I don't know if there's bound to be a theory on how you do it, how people do it. I've learned through observation, I think. And bear in mind that all of these here, all of these have been based on observation. This was, but it's become so far from what the original was, it's now abstract. And these could be termed abstract because unless you've got the whole picture, it's hard to tell what they are. It's like these are taken from grapes, not grapes, pears, the rotten pears with mould growing on or whatever it was. But these would be on individual pears. The pears aren't there. I've just taken this lovely pattern, and it's not really like the pattern on the pears either. It just inspired me to create something similar to interpret it. And the same here. It just started. I think I did put pencil shapes in for the edge of the rings that I wanted to go in. But after that, after the first couple of sections I put in, I just carried on. Not looking back at the reference very often, really. Occasionally I think, hang on, these are all just straight lines. How do these lines branch off? And I had to look and I thought, right, I'm going to go with that. This one, I used one of the, a Uniball Eye Micro rollerball pen for the black around this. It's much thicker in line than these biros and darker, but then adding the shadow with the biros really has added something very interesting. And I've created something at the bottom that makes it look almost like it's a seed pod of some kind, or some weird fruit perhaps, or, you know, actually looking at it, it's almost like I've cut through a clove of garlic, and, you know, not clove, but a bulb of garlic in a weird way, but you can't see the centre. Who knows? It's not meant to look like anything, but pareidolia, I think it's called, is where our minds will try to make sense out of things that have no sense, like looking at clouds and seeing animals or faces or other things in them, or wallpaper or patterns on walls and things like that. And it's the same with this. You know, different people see different things in it, which is perfectly fine. So that was quite fun. And again, if I want to, I can, to this grey here, I can also add some colour. I am really, really surprised at how much I'm enjoying working with the biros. There's something that needs some exploration, and also going forward with mixed media. But it's also something I want to bear in mind when it comes to drawing art digitally perhaps as well. I haven't worked my way through this yet. You can see just that little hint of colour. I don't know if you can see it and pick it up there. And this last one, which I will show you this way round, is pebbles and seaweed on a beach. And you can, you know, the scale of the pebbles to the seaweed gives you an idea of how big and thick strands these seaweeds are. This seaweed is actually bright, you know, really quite a bright orange next to the grey pebbles. Well, I do have orange biros in sets, but I used what was in my pencil case because it was convenient. And really, it's just a matter of getting shadow and light down. And there's this, and here's a tip for you. If you are colouring and worried about lines or areas of overlap, try to work it in a way that goes with the shape of the object. So for example, here where I've been putting shadow in, I'm following the rough shape of this here, so not going this way. I might do if I want to add extra shadow, because there comes a point when just can't get any, you know, more black in, or perhaps I want this might go disappears under here, so I might just want to bring some shadow in that would suggest it's come from this overlying strand, like that. Again, I don't know if you can see it. Perhaps if I go in a bit, there we go. So I can do that just to bring in that sense that this is what's giving that shadow. But for the rest of the seaweed, I'm actually going to follow the way that it will fold. Now here, this seems to fold in on itself almost there and disappear for a bit. So I'll do that. I'll keep this going in that kind of line and let it disappear. The same here, we've got dark areas here. These were darker. I was looking at the reference for this one because again I want to learn more from observational skills, and it's good to practice them, and it informs me for projects in the future perhaps. And what I've done here is looked at where the darker areas are for how the lines would move around, and to use the lines to help to build the form of the shape, if that makes any sense. And with pens, I could colour these in really heavily and it'd be awful. But just that very, very light touch is enough to lay just a thin layer of colour down. That's interesting. You can now see where I've managed to put a crease in there. Interesting, yeah. It's sort of like it's an unexpected thing. Sometimes I need to look at things from a different perspective from further away. And that is also a good trick to do. It's not something I do all that often. But my perspective of looking things from a distance is more to do with putting things to one side, unless I'm happy with how they are at the moment, and coming back to them. Again, here, there's that sense of shadow and dips going on here, as if there's folds and creases here. There wasn't in the original. For the pebbles, at the moment I'm just using grey or black, very pale. And again, I'm trying to move the pen so the lines follow what would be the contours of the pebble. So that gives it the illusion of, excuse me, the illusion of volume. And again, if I was using coloured pencils perhaps, then that's exactly how I'd try to add the colour, is to keep the lines moving little at a time in the same direction. And then if the colour is a little bit patchy, not so smooth, it actually works out nicely with the texture perhaps, or the form. And of course I am looking here where there would be shadows perhaps, and it may be that I use, I'm going to go and use blue just to bring in a different colour to act as the shadow colour perhaps. Again, with shadows, I'm trying to look at the objects around and the shape of the shadow they would cast. And I'm keeping the lines going in that kind of direction so that it ties in. Whether this is right or wrong, whether other people say it goes against the theory, do you know what? I don't worry about it, because it's the end effect is the important thing, I think. So there you are. There's a look through my sketchbook on a Sunday and some of the ways of how I work and some of the reviews I've done. I do like this. I haven't seen this much in daylight because I've been working on it at night with artificial light that isn't daylight light on. Really need to get new bulbs for the light above my bed. It's very yellowy and not very bright, which is the whole idea of a bed light, except I tend to sit in bed a lot drawing. Ho-ho. But it's good fun. Oh, the book is an old book, but I'm sure it's still available. It's this. It's called Surfaces and Textures by Polly O'Neill, the Visual Source Books. I've had this since my A-level art days, so I've had it for 20 years. And it's just full of pictures of textures and surfaces and lovely things to get patterns and to look at close up how different things work. And it's absolutely beautiful. It's just eye candy, even if I didn't make use of it. And it's something I haven't looked at for years, and I've forgotten how beautiful it was. Let's see if I can find what I used. I bet you I can't now. Oh, there we go. That's the picture I took the inspiration from for that abstract art piece. You can see the shapes. And I didn't draw it as it was. I just took a couple of the shapes and used those as my way of working. Ground. Beautiful things like lichens and mosses and tiny plants. How beautiful this is. Definitely more there. That was the test piece for the other abstract. Beautiful, beautiful. And the colours Rest. I love rest. I was going to look, wasn't I, for... Oh, there we are. That's from Strands of Seaweed and Pebbles that I was drawing. There is the mould on pears. We can see those concentric circles of dots. It was that one that caught my attention, and so got translated to this. This one is this, and I bet you I can't find the burnt wood. I may do. Not that one. Wasn't that? See, it was in here somewhere. It must still be in the wood one. Anyway, forward a bit or two. You can see it's just gorgeous. That, thinking, what on earth is a rest ring doing on rock? It's a terracotta landrain. Isn't that fantastic? It's sort of like all these unexpected things. And somebody was there with a camera to take a photograph of it. And this is my style of photography. People are interesting, but I prefer people as people. And their story and who they are and what makes them tick in many ways. Although my social anxiety means I can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. Terrible, is it? Just beautiful things. Peeling paint and so on. Anyway, I'm wittering on. I'm showing you a book very quickly that perhaps you may or may not be interested in. It's one of my favourites. I have many favourites. So thank you for joining me this morning. Not a lot of art, but a lot of talking and a look through. Hopefully some insight into myself, what I'm thinking, where I'm going with this. And enjoy the rest of your day, please do. Thank you for joining me. Thank you if you stuck to the end for sticking to the end. And I hope to see you again here soon. Take care now. Bye-bye.